Mhm.
Well, Ferguson had a big flashlight, and he'd tromp around through the weeds, and all of a sudden, he'd jump and hollered. And so I would say, keep your mind open to whatever possibilities exist.
That is a historian's way of saying no. Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Creative Chaos. My name is Hunter Ezell, and we are based in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And for the longest time, I put some feelers out there. I was like, we can't always get major celebrities like folks from Dance Moms or 1,000-Pound Sisters, but sometimes I like to keep it local, okay? And no better way than to stay local than have somebody who knows about local. They know about Hopkinsville. They know about Kentucky. They probably know more about me, We got the Nardwuar of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. If you don't know who Nardwuar is, I'll put you in on it. Got a local historian, Mr. William Turner. Literally, oh my goodness gracious, people that have like, Hunter, you started a podcast. You were probably one of the top people that was like people were like, you got to be on. It was you.
I'm surprised.
Why?
I just am. I'm a humble fella.
Come on, man. That's incredible. But, in 2017, I had just gotten into videography, doing all sorts of stuff like that. And people, they were really taking a chance on that young boy. And they were like, hey, it's Halloween time. And they were like, can you come out here to the museum and film a story for us? I said, sure. What is it? They said, well, somebody's going to be telling the Bell Witch story. I said, okay, that's cool. I didn't really think nothing of it. Well, it was this guy right here sitting across the table from me, Mr. William Turner, and my goodness gracious. Your accurate retelling of that, man, that's nuts. It's like you was reading it out of a book, but you was just straight up, right off the cuff. So what's up? How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm making it, man.
I thank you for the opportunity to visit with you on this medium.
Man, well, I appreciate you. I love that I'm able to preserve stuff like this on the internet forever. My last episode that I filmed was with Bryce Long. And, it's really cool that I'm able to connect with people in Hopkinsville that have made such an impact on the community. And you being one of those people, it's really an honor to have you here, though.
Bryce Long was one of my students at the college.
Was he really? Mm-hmm. Goodness. So what'd you do at the college?
I taught history.
Taught history?
Government.
Man, what you know about history?
Not much.
Not much. What made you want to get in all that?
From the time I was a little boy.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in people and their record of achievements and failures.
Yeah.
And so that led me into a lifetime pursuit of finding all I could about people in this community and what all they have done.
Yeah. You think you'd be any different if you lived anywhere else?
No, I think I would take up that community as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they really try to discount this part of the country as not having a lot to be proud of, besides like people, they just think for the most part that if you live in the South, oh my God, the Confederacy, for the most part, you know what I'm saying? But there's so much more than that little section of history that this part of the country has to go for, Like I said, off camera, my wife and I, we film weddings all over the world. And I tell people I'm from Kentucky. What do you think the first thing is they mention to me whenever I say Kentucky?
Probably bourbon.
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken. And, there's so much more, though, to especially Hopkinsville and stuff.
I never cease to be amazed at what we uncover every day.
Oh, absolutely.
That points to the achievements of people in this community.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things that stick out to you then?
I think in particular people like Edgar Cayce.
Yeah.
World-renowned psychic.
Mm-hmm.
I think of bell hooks, a world-renowned writer. I think of so many people many of them not as famous as those two,
Mm-hmm.
who left their mark upon this community.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I actually, because I knew I was going to ask you some stuff like that. You know, I think people, you know, I think when people look at Hopkinsville and the surrounding area, they really don't know that, like, where you're from does not limit your reach anymore, you know?
That's right.
So, I mean, like, if you just look in, like, the athletic department in Hopkinsville, you got to look at, like, there's a guy that plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers from Hopkinsville. We got Scotty Hobson, you know, Curtis Pulley. He played for UK for a little bit, you know. We got Jamarion Sharp. He plays for the Dallas Mavericks. You know, it's got Easton McGee, MLB. It's like your reach is not limited just because of where you are.
And I could quote you names of famous people in the sports world from this community all the way back to the turn of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
We had a football team organized in Hopkinsville in 1905.
Yeah.
And there are many individuals who made a name for themselves in playing football.
Really? Like who?
Well, I think of Tommy Gray, Jerry Claiborne, who was UK coach. Two come to mind in that respect.
You know, things I'm really fascinated with. You know, we had Bryce Long on last episode, but you know, Steve Gorman, the Black Crows.
Yes.
You know,
I've known Steve since he was a boy.
Yeah, man, incredible drummer. I'm a drummer myself, so to know that type of, you know, that level of talent is from here, it's like, man, come on, keep on pushing.
You're right about that.
Keep on pushing. But I get all these ideas in my head. One of my favorite facts that I tell people all the time is people who aren't from, you know, I've had people that come to Hopkinsville to shoot sessions with me who aren't from the area. And whenever we're driving past here, you know, my studio's right next to the Alhambra, I'll be all like, yeah, Jimi Hendrix played there in the 60s. What do you know about that?
I don't really remember that.
Yeah.
I guess I was away at college at the time.
Yeah.
I knew that he came here, but I was not there.
Yeah. So he played here in the 60s whenever he was stationed at Fort Campbell. So he got his, I think it all goes back to him getting his start in the, he started playing guitar in the military and stuff like that. And once he got out, he really started ripping up gigs that way. So,
I think of another angle in this building in which we're located right now. In my research, there was a man named Lebcatcher who operated a cigar factory on this floor.
Really?
Back 100 years ago. And later on, he became the band director for Hopkinsville High School.
Really?
Harry Lebcatcher.
How old is this building?
This building probably dates back to about 1865.
Really? Shoo-wee, man.
Yeah. If the walls could talk, it could really entertain us.
Oh, I bet some of the stories, you know, I think, you know, you hear the saying, if these walls could talk, you know, I think a lot of that attributes to much of the history in Hopkinsville, you know. My goodness gracious.
And I find it helpful in collecting old pictures because an old photograph will tell you so much about a place, who was there, what they were doing, what happened there. It all ties in together to create a fabric of our study of history.
So, from the sound of it, it seems like you've got quite the collection.
I do.
Yeah.
Of photographs in particular.
Yeah.
I've been collecting photographs since I was 14.
Yeah.
And I would estimate that our collection numbers around 25,000 of this community dating back to 1865. That was the time that a photographer arrived on the scene and began to make pictures here. And then we have worlds of old documents, contracts, deeds, bills of sale, telephone bills, you name it, in the way of paper history.
Man.
And we have cataloged all of that as much as possible.
So, you were a pretty big part in the museum then, huh?
Yes, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
In 1975, then Mayor George Atkins called me and said, William, I believe we're going to be able to get the old post office. what would you think of having a museum in the building? I said, absolutely, Jordan, let's go. So in August of 1975, coming up on 50 years, 30 people gathered in the museum in the old post office building. It had served as the servicemen's center for Fort Campbell. We organized the Penroyal Eerie Museum. And after months of hard work, we finally got it open in July of 1976. So it's been open ever since then.
My goodness. I ain't been in that place since I was a kid. I really need to go in
We'd
there.
love for you to come see it. We've
need to go in
remodeled lately and
Have you
changed
really?
exhibits.
That's awesome.
And it really looks different today.
Man, that's awesome. I just love how, you know, I think a lot of people, they ask me and my wife, they're like, Hunter, with what you're doing, why aren't you moving out to like Los Angeles? I'm like, I don't need to. Hopkinsville,
Well, there's much to cover right here.
there's much to cover. It's a great home base. I love, and you know, a lot of people are like, oh, there's nothing to do here. You just ain't looking in the right spots.
No.
You ain't looking in the right spots,
There's
man.
something to do all the time.
I've always said that. I'm just, you know, Nashville is hop, skip, and a jump away. That's becoming the Southern LA
Yes.
these days. But
Well,
man,
from the Alhambra to our parks to Hopper baseball in the summer, we have so many activities to occupy our time.
man, you like that Hopper baseball?
I
huh?
love Hopper baseball.
Man,
really do.
alive. We went out there a couple of weeks ago. Our church sponsored Hopper's Night.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, we were out there hanging out, and I was like, "Shoo, we
Yeah,
really get active."
one night we drew over 700 people to the game.
Shoot, I love seeing people
And a
support
lot
that
of
stuff.
children, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worlds of children running around playing.
Yeah. So, take me back to the beginning of Hopkinsville. What can you tell me about people like? What can you tell me about people like Edgar Cayce?
Well, Hopkinsville had its beginning right after the American Revolution. This land was part of the Green River country that was open to settlement, and people began to come in here and take up land. If you had fought in the Revolution for a period of 6 months, you could claim 160 acres of land in western Kentucky. So many veterans of the Revolution came in here and settled and took up land and became farmers. So farming was the first occupation, the chief activity of people. And so along with them came millers, because we needed mills for grinding corn and wheat. There also came blacksmiths, coopers to make barrels, and quite a plethora of people. Ministers came, teachers, and they began to establish on a very limited basis, all in log structures, buildings that were used to satisfy the demands and the needs for the people in Hopkinsville. Now, in those beginning days, Hopkinsville was encompassed in an area by the river, over here behind us, to 14th Street on the south, to Virginia Street on the east, and 4th on the north. So it was a very small settlement.
Right.
And the courthouse was built on the site of the present courthouse. It was a log structure. Behind it was a jail. They called a gaol, the old English term for a jail, G-A-O-L, gaol. And the streets were dirt. There were no sidewalks. There were no show windows. Storefronts were just blank walls with a door. Show windows would come before the Civil War. And that was quite a problem because oftentimes horses and wagons passed along the street would throw rocks against the glass show windows and break them. So it was a great step of progress when Hopkinsville saw its first paved streets. Now they used rock. They took jailbirds out to the quarry, and they sat on rock piles with rock hammers and broke big rocks into little ones, and finally got them down to the size of your fist. And they scattered these loads of rock on the streets. And that was the real beginning of more modern transportation, using wagons, of course, and buggies. A few carriages, not many of them. But Hopkinsville, in those early days, had a spirit of growth to it that was exemplified. Well, let me give you an example. There was a tavern keeper by the name of Thomas Alsbury. He had a tavern right on this site. And famous people like Henry Clay came here to Hopkinsville and spoke and stayed at Thomas Alsbury's tavern. In time, it would be run by Abram Stites. He called it the Buzzard's Roost, an unusual name for an inn, but the Buzzard's Roost. And so in time, people began to get interested in the literary angle of life, which gave them the opportunity to build a large room somewhere that traveling troops could come through and perform. And by 1810, we had wagons pulled by mules and horses and oxen, bringing theatrical troops to Hopkinsville to perform. That was a big step in entertainment. People talked about them coming, about them being here, and about them having been here for months afterward. I think, by example, of Mozart Hall, which was a big assembly hall built over on Virginia Street. It was about 30 feet wide and 90 feet long on the second floor of a building. It was lighted by coal oil lamps, and the lights for the stage were coal oil lamps. That was the way they were able to see at night because, of course, the performances were provided at night. And so Mozart Hall was a big, big step.
And where was that at?
On Virginia Street at 6.
Okay. So, like, right down
Just
here.
a block over.
Just like right over here, huh?
Yes.
My goodness.
I think by example of the many stirring events that have occurred in the courthouse. We've had, of course, a great number of trials. But one of the most interesting things came one night in about 1925, 100 years ago. Our sheriff, Mr. Wilson, had a son-in-law who was drunk and quite a terrorizing character to not only family but to neighbors. And one night, the son-in-law came into the courthouse, and Mr. Wilson had some words with him, and it developed into a gunfire fight. And Mr. Wilson shot and killed his son-in-law in the hall of the courthouse. The grand jury held an inquest to determine what should be done with Mr. Wilson. And the jurors all knew the son-in-law and his reputation for drinking. And so finally the grand jury rendered its decision in the complaint of the Commonwealth against Oscar Wilson, sheriff of Christian County. We, the jury, determined no contest, no guilt in the direction of Mr. Wilson. In fact, he should have killed the damn fool long before he did. There, the whole situation legally died.
Would that have held up in this day and age?
Oh, no.
I think it'd been like national news, wouldn't
Yes,
you?
it would.
Oh, my goodness
Surely would.
gracious. That's crazy, man. So,
Also, the courthouse was the scene of the famous Nightrider trial in 1911, when Dr. David Amos, the alleged leader of the Nightriders, was put on trial for making the raid on Hopkinsville on the night of December 7th, 1907. Dr. Amos was on trial for a week. And during the course of the trial, the defense attorney, Charles Bush, pointed at Dr. Amos and said, "Dr. Amos, have you ever been shot?" Dr. Amos looked at him as Solomon's judge and responded, "No, sir." Everybody knew by talk of the town he had been shot.
Mm-hmm.
On the night of the raid, he was accidentally shot by one of his own night riders. Well, the attorney continued, "Dr. Amos, would you be willing for an examination in the privacy of an antechamber among the all-male jury to expose your body, excuse me, and prove you had not been shot?" Dr. Amos responded, "No, sir, I would not mind."
Hmm.
So that line of questioning was stopped. Now, was Dr. Amos shot? Yes. Where was he shot that a jury examining his body would not find a flesh wound?
Mm.
Well, everyone knew. A picture was made of Dr. Amos during the trial.
Mm-hmm.
His hair was black, except one side, and the scalp was white.
Mm-hmm.
He had sustained a scalp wound,
Mm-hmm.
which had altered the hair growth color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one of the little footnotes of history.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
so interesting.
Goodness gracious.
I think of a radio station we had here in 1927, the second station in the state after WHAS in Louisville. WFIW went on there in 27. It was owned by the Agamy Mills on Campbell Street. The old mill's still standing there.
Mm-hmm.
They had a brick building on the grounds. They fitted up, as you have done in this lovely room, with the necessary equipment for a radio station. And the station call letters, WFIW, matched the slogan for the very best and blue-winged flower, whitest flower in the world. For 7 years, WFIW, with a 1,000-watt clear channel broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
could be heard from the East Coast to the Rockies and from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, one night, as a promotion, the request was made by the announcer, Judge Clark, "If you can hear us, send a postcard and let us know, and we have a gift for you." A few days later, a card was received from Fargo, North Dakota,
Really?
1,000 miles away. And the gift to that individual was a barrel of very best flour from the mill.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's little footnotes like that that put
So
Hopkinsville
this
on
is-
the map.
This is a sunflower mill, right?
Yeah, no. It's a mill on Campbell Street
Okay.
that is no longer in use.
Okay.
It's vacant now.
Awesome, man. Oh my goodness.
That's just another little story that comes to mind. Another one comes to mind on Christmas Eve, 1937.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it well, as I jokingly say, when a northbound passenger train, number 54, on the LNN, the Louisville National Railroad, that passenger train, number 54, had stopped for passenger service to Hopkinsville.
Uh-huh.
Directly behind that passenger section was a freight section, another train coming with Christmas parcels and mail. Someone had tampered with the air brakes on the locomotive of that second engine. The locomotive rounding the curve there at 17th Street, ready for the straight shot through downtown by the depot, applied his air brakes, and he had none.
Uh-oh.
And so just shy of 13th Street, the second engine of this two-train consist smacked into the rear end of the passenger train. Fortunately, no one was killed. Several were injured.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the talk of the community
I bet.
for days after that. And that night, a big crowd gathered down there to see it. In the weeks that followed, the L&N Railroad conducted tests to see just exactly what had happened. They scheduled trains, not created a crash, but setting a section to come in to try to stop. And that's when they determined that the air brakes on the second locomotive had been, the cock that controlled the air had been turned.
So, a little sidebar, you know, the dreams that I have the most that wake me up at night are the dreams where my brakes on my vehicle go out.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not even imagine that happening to me. That terrifies me. I am just absolutely like locked in right now. The way you were able to tell these stories, you literally could like, you ever done narration?
Yes.
I bet you have. There's no way somebody before me hasn't picked up on that. Goodness gracious. Off camera, I had mentioned to you that there was a small connection that you and I could make together. Do you remember when the History Channel did a spot on Edgar Cayce over here at the museum? Well, I think it was like 2004, something like that. My brother-in-law, Kenneth Means, he played one of the actors like portraying up there in that, like in the second floor of the museum. That's just crazy to me. I told him that I was able to get you on the podcast. He's so excited about it.
Well, I enjoy sharing what little I know.
Yeah.
For
For
entertainment and also to educate.
Well, dude, it's incredible. One of the things that I remember that, you know, as I picked up on as a kid, we would always go to Old Charlie's, you know, and it broke my heart whenever they got rid of the mural in Old Charlie's that had all the local stuff going on it, such as the Trail of Tears, you know, the old clock tower down here, and they had a big portrait of Edgar Cayce, you know.
It might interest you to know that we now have that mural.
Do you really?
In storage at the museum, yes.
I gotta see that with my own two eyes. Because that was one of my favorite things. Because every time I'd go up in there as a kid, each time we loved going to Old Charlie's.
I did too.
I loved the butter.
Still do.
I loved the butter. You know, a lot of people don't know that Old Charlie's is actually a local chain. It was come out of Nashville, you know? So I think it's cool they were able to maintain like hometown roots in all those restaurants and everything. But one of the things that always astounded me was every time I would go up in there, I would always try to look for something new. And it was always interesting to me how there was always something new to look for. And it's just crazy that, you know, people, they really try to, going back to that whole, people are like, oh, Hopkinsville doesn't have that much. Oh, yes, it does. You know, one of my favorite stories, and this is where we buckle up, one of my favorite stories, Kelly Green Man. You asked my memo about that. She said, "I ain't no Kelly Green Man." She gets mad. My memo gets mad. She said, "I ain't done it."
Well, I was 14 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And I, along with most everybody else here, had the same opinion while they were just inebriated.
Yeah. They was inebriated.
But it surely did stir a lot of controversy and discussion.
Yeah.
Never will forget a group here back in 2005 decided we would have a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Little Green Men.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. The museum was involved in it. We had programs at the museum. And somebody suggested that I conduct tours to Kelly.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Now, on Sunday afternoon in August 2005, we conducted 5 bus tours to Kelly to see nothing. And yet the buses were packed with people. We had people coming from everywhere to this.
So for people that, can you tell a shortened version of what happened in Kelly, Kentucky for people who might not know?
Yes. On an August night in 1955, a family living in a little house on the old Madisonville Road at Kelly heard a swirling, switching noise. they looked out and saw what appeared to be a flying saucer land in the bushes near the house. Well, they went out to investigate and encountered little people about 3 feet tall with Tommy guns and were shooting at these Christian Countyans, but no bullets. That went on for an hour or two. Finally, the spaceship left with little green men in it. Well, that just excited the people. They rushed Hoptown to the police station. The police station and the county police and the MPs from Fort Campbell all went to Kelly. They tromped around in the weeds looking for anything that would look like a flying saucer. One of the men on that search that night in 1955 was young rookie state trooper R.N. Russ Ferguson. Mm-hmm. That name is still well known in this community. Mm-hmm. Well, Ferguson had a big flashlight, and he tromped around through the weeds, and all of a sudden, he jumped and hollered, and a tomcat. He had stepped on the tail of a tomcat, and with the cat's meow, it scared him to death. That was the only thing unusual that happened. Now, we called them little green men. They weren't. They were wearing tinfoil-looking outfits, silver. Mm-hmm. But a reporter on the Evansville Courier, coming down to report on the incident, decided just for pure fun, he would add a little ingredient to the story. And so he perfected the idea that the little men were wearing green tinfoil suits. We'd never heard of green tinfoil in 1955. It was all silver.
I don't think it's still. I think it's tinfoil. It's going to be
silver.
Yeah.
And so that was the outcome. Now, there are many people today who take this seriously. Mm-hmm. Among them, the Sutton family. And I don't mean to be disparaging in my comments about them. They sincerely believed that something unusual happened. And if in your mind you believe something that happened, it happened.
100%.
And so we give credit to that family. They suffered an awful lot of ridicule from the public.
Well, one of the most disheartening things, like Chicken Little, for instance, mm-hmm. Man, mm-hmm. That whole story about Chicken Little, it's just one of them things like, you say the sky's falling and you see it with your own 2 eyes, nobody else believes you, Mm-hmm. But you said August, okay? If we're talking about August, it happened in August 1955, in a hypothetical world where aliens are real, do you think, this is where I get into my little, I had Mr. David Powell on Weatherman a couple weeks ago on, and I hopped up into this. I don't want to hop too deep into it. But if we're talking about August, okay, you know what else happened in August was the solar eclipse. Do you think, hypothetically, if aliens absolutely did come to Hopkinsville or Kelly, do you think that the solar eclipse had anything to do with that?
Personally, I have a hard time believing it. Mm-hmm. But on the second point, anything is possible.
Right.
And so I would say keep your mind open to whatever possibilities exist.
That is a historian's way of saying no.
You're right.
No. I just like to ask stuff like that because, it's things like that keep my mind racing, on a long drive. If I'm filming a wedding somewhere, say Bardstown, I got to drive home that night. Yeah. It's stuff like that. I'm like, what if?
Yeah.
What if? But tell me about the historical significance of the solar eclipse, though.
Historical significance of the solar eclipse of 2017.
Yes.
It affected Hopkinsville in Christian County. Mm-hmm. We were at the center of it. Mm-hmm. We had a large number of people, probably 100,000.
Oh, I remember.
Who traveled here. Out at our farm, we had a group from ARE, the Virginia Beach Organization of Edgar Cayce. They came by bus, and we all stretched out on the ground and watched as darkness fell upon the community. I think somewhere around 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was very significant to us that it happened here. Just like you've heard of the great race, the great automobile race that's conducted every year. In 1991, they came through Hopkinsville. And I'll never forget, since I love old cars, the excitement of seeing probably over 200 antique cars roar down 9th Street into Main and park. It just was a chapter out of history.
My goodness. So one of my favorite things about the solar eclipse is that, which I've talked about on the podcast before, but that's how I got my start, like filming and even getting access to cameras and stuff, is that I made a video about Hopkinsville. It was called This is Eclipseville. And I went to a bunch of local businesses, stuff like that, promoted the city. You know, I did not make a single dime off this video. I just wanted to do something, right? Well, the thing blew up. It got 140,000 views on social media. Incredible, right? And to a 20-year-old kid, that was like, oh, this is the start. And, you know, that's how I got my start making content and everything, was because of the solar eclipse. But the reach of that video blew my mind. You talk about people coming from, West Virginia and stuff like that. Was it West Virginia or Virginia Beach?
Virginia Beach.
Yeah, you talk about people coming from Virginia Beach. A guy come from Poland because he saw my video. And I'm still in touch with him to this day. His name is Mikhail. And it was incredible. I worked at Starbucks here in Hopkinsville for about 5 years, and I'll never forget the night of the solar eclipse. I went in there to get a drink or something like that, and somebody was like, "Hunter, you got to meet this guy." And he come up to me. He said he saw my video on the internet. He come from Poland to come to Hopkinsville. It's incredible, man.
Absolutely.
So, this is just me asking because I haven't even dug into my questions yet. Did Edgar Cayce have any? Did he have any Did he have any foretellings about the solar eclipse? Anything like that? Because I thought I had seen something like that.
Not specifically. Edgar Cayce did give readings that ventured into other worlds, other areas. But I don't know of any that dealt with the solar eclipse. May have, and I just don't know it.
So what did he do? What did he do whenever, tell me some fun facts about Edgar Cayce then for people who might not know, including myself.
Well, we'll start with some serious things first. Edgar Cayce got his start right here on Main Street, upstairs at Old Holland's Opera House, directly above Wood's Drug Store, when he was hypnotized on the stage by Hart the Laugh Man, who was a hypnotist who came to Hopkinsville to entertain the crowd. Edgar had suffered a loss of his voice prior to that time, and he could only speak in a whisper. When he was laid out on the couch up on the stage of Holland's Opera House, and the hypnotist offered the power of suggestion to Edgar, his voice returned, and he could speak normally. Then when the session was over, his voice lapsed back into that whisper. Well, that was the beginning of his giving readings, psychic readings. It was done at home or in an office where it's quiet. He would lie down on a couch or sofa, take off his cufflinks, unbutton his tie, release his shoelaces, and place his hands over the solar plexus like this. And his eyes would flutter, and he would pass off into a subconscious state. In that state, he was knowledgeable of many things. And so a stenographer would record what he said. and would ask him questions. It all dealt with, at first, the physical health of somebody. He had to know where they were. He did not have to be with them, but he had to have the address of where they were located. And so when he knew that, then he would say, yes, we have the body. And so he would go over the entire body, describing any ailments. Then he would prescribe treatment for those ailments. And with that, he would say, this reading is over, and he'd wake up. He had no memory in awake consciousness of what he had said while he was under. Over a period of 44 years, he gave over 14,250 psychic readings pertaining to the physical and mental health of people. Those readings are transcribed and are in the archive at the library at ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment at Virginia Beach, Virginia. Now, in the 20s, he moved into the area of giving life readings, reincarnation. Mm-hmm. This is where a lot of people parted company. A lot of people stayed with him. In those readings, he would say, we have the body before us. And he would go back several generations and describe who you were and what you did and what happened to you. And he would cover about 4 or 5 life entities from early history into recent times in what we call a life reading. And people still just shake their head in amazement at such ability.
So, how do you think he developed that type of stuff?
Very simply. He was asked many times, where did you get this power? How did you develop it? He said, it is a gift from God.
Man.
Period.
So
he was a religious man all of his life, taught young fellas in Sunday school, very active churchgoer, and he never understood the source other than what I've just told you.
That's incredible. So he never questioned it?
No. He questioned it at first.
Right.
But in time, he came to accept it.
My gosh, that's incredible. So he would, I bet he had a lot of people that would just, was he ever like at one point he was pretty overwhelmed?
Oh, yes.
With the amount of people that would come?
Yes.
He was, was he like ever like booked up per se?
As World War II approached, people flooded him with letters. My son is in Japan. Will he survive the war? My son has been injured in Germany. What condition is he in? Mm-hmm. Edgar Cayce normally gave 2 readings a day. Each one left him kind of washed out. That was the only physical thing you could really tell. But as the war approached, and more people wrote him asking for information that they felt he could give, he began giving more than 2 readings a day, and was up to 7 a day by the fall of 1944, when he gave a self-reading, and the self-reading indicated you are near exhaustion. You must stop. You're giving too many readings. He did not. So he suffered a stroke. And that was the end of the readings. He lived about 3 months. He's buried in Hopkinsville.
So the readings were ultimately what led to his death?
I would say so, yes.
Oh, my goodness. That's what I was wondering, man. It's insane.
But he had such a, what's my word? Such a human desire to help other people that he couldn't stop.
I think it's very far and few these days you see somebody like that in this day and age. But to hear of that, right here in town. It's really incredible to look back on.
Now, local people accepted it,
Mm-hmm.
and local people said it's all a fake. I halfway jokingly say that the medical profession at the time fought him tooth and nail. They said nothing to him. My contend is he was cutting in on their margin of profit.
Oh, 100%. I think a lot of that has to do with, like a lot of people, they say that certain things are kept away to keep profits up, and I think that dates back to whatever he was doing. So people would come to him here in Hopkinsville.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He never traveled outside.
He finally moved from Hopkinsville to Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
But wherever he lived, people came to him
Mm-hmm.
or wrote to him.
Mm-hmm.
He could give a reading for someone based upon a letter.
Mm-hmm. So you said you said you were going to tell me some serious stuff. What's some not so serious facts about him?
He was not a real humorous person,
Mm-hmm.
but I think by example, when he loved to fish,
Mm-hmm.
and he took his grandson with him fishing in a pond there at Virginia Beach, and they snagged a big one. And as he was pulling it in, the line broke. And he turned to the little grandson and said, "Well, Buster, there's one that got away to freedom."
So these stories like that, how do stories like that get preserved to where you can like access them? Like, how did you learn about these types of things?
Researchers have written books.
Mm-hmm.
There are dozens of books upon the subject of Edgar Cayce.
Mm-hmm.
And one is entitled The Humor of Edgar Cayce. And they read enough readings to find stories of humor to write a book.
My goodness. So in terms of like all of your years of doing research on these, what's one of the most captivating things that that you're proud to know that you come across of?
There are many subjects that captivate my interest and attention
Mm-hmm.
and years of research. But one of the principal ones may come as a surprise to you.
Mm-hmm.
Over on Virginia Street, between 6th and 7th, where the pig pizza place is.
Krusty Pig.
Krusty Pig.
We love you.
We love Krusty Pig.
Amen.
We sure do.
We stand Krusty Pig in this house, baby.
Yes. Well, where the Krusty Pig stands, there was built in 1894 a 3-story brick hotel.
Hotel Latham. I knew you was going to talk about this.
Absolutely. I could not share anything with you without talking about Hotel Latham. Hotel Latham was a 93-room hotel, 3 stories high.
Now that was pretty big for that day and age.
That was big for Hopkinsville.
But that's big for that day and age,
Yes,
too.
it was. And a New York architect, E.S. Child, designed the Latham. It was built over a period of about 9 months and opened in January of 1895 with a gala ball and dance for the young people.
Mm-hmm.
For 45 years, Hotel Latham was a social and cultural center of Hopkinsville. The civic clubs met there. Cotillion dances, balls were given. Young people flocked there in mass to dances. There's a big dining room there and had delicious food, and it was always full. Now, Hotel Latham attracted the local trade, but also tourists, because in those days, Highway 41 and 41A were the principal route from Chicago to Jacksonville. As automobiles became more and more usable, people traveled by car, kind of taking away the train trips.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone traveling from the Chicago area could make it to Evansville in a day. They would stop at the McCurdy Hotel in Evansville for the night. Then it took them a day because 41 was dirt and rock.
Mm-hmm.
Took a day to Hopkinsville. They spent the night at the Latham. It took another day to reach Nashville and a multitude of hotels there. So Hotel Latham was a stopping place for tourists and a gathering place for local people as they were entertained and entertained. When famous people came to Hopkinsville, like Teddy Roosevelt, Eddie Rickenbacker, Billy Sunday, the evangelistic baseball player, came, they all stayed at the Latham. A very famous actress in the 30s was Ethel Barrymore, a sister to John and Lionel Barrymore. She came to Hopkinsville and performed at Union Tabernacle. That's another subject of a community center for entertainment. But she stayed at the Latham. That was always understood. Hotel Latham was a gathering place for the civic clubs, for social groups, for private parties. It was a gathering place for the people throughout the community. On Sunday afternoon, August 4th, 1940, about 1:15, smoke was observed coming out of one of the dormer windows up on the roof. A man went into the hotel and confronted the clerk and said, "You got smoke coming out. You got a fire up there?" And J.D. Haywood, the clerk, said, "I hope not." Well, we did. The fire department did not have aerial equipment that would reach from the outside, so they had to drag water hoses all the way up through the hotel and wind up through the stairways to the 4th floor. By the time they could get there, it was out of control. The community gathered as we watched a landmark die, as Hotel Latham burned to the ground that afternoon. Everybody who could get there came. Smoke from the fire was seen throughout the area, and people knew something big was burning in Hopkinsville. And so they came, and among them was a young fellow about your age with a home movie camera. Well, he made about 5 minutes at intervals through the afternoon of shots of the Latham burning. It's in color. We have it at the museum. You can see it throughout the afternoon of the destruction of that hotel.
I'll have to check that out. I need to see that. So why haven't they tried to do something like that again in Hopkinsville, like another Hotel Latham?
Money.
Yeah.
Voters.
Yeah.
The announcement was made after the hotel burned that it would be rebuilt. But they discovered they only had $36,000 fire insurance on the building. Well, that wasn't enough to rebuild a hotel, not in 1940. 1940 was a time that our community was on the verge, on the very cusp of a new era with the development of Camp Campbell. And had the Latham survived, it would certainly have prospered through World War II with people coming and going in relation to Fort Campbell. But no one came forward among promoters who had the money to invest in a new hotel.
My goodness. That's an incredible story. I had always seen, because there's my favorite thing about Hopkinsville is that there's historical landmarks all over, things showing and everything like that. And people, they always, I've never heard that story about Hotel Latham. I always knew it burned down. I just didn't know what had happened. One of my favorite stories, bringing it back to the beginning of this podcast, we were talking about one of the first gigs that I ever got was filming the retelling of the Bell Witch story. How did you come across, were you just fascinated with that story, or was that because whenever people think of William Turner, that's the first thing they talk about. Why is that?
In 1966, my cousin Brooks Major and I were at a men's club, the Athenaeum Society, at which he gave a paper entitled The Story of Kate the Bell Witch. Well, I was a young teacher, desperately looking for any points of human interest or entertainment that would entice the students to be more interested in history. So I knew that Dr. Major had read the Bell Witch book, and several of them, in fact. And so I did likewise. And I committed to memory the story and began telling the Bell Witch story in 1966. And that tradition continues today, as with the help of Wayne Goolsby, my good friend in the Historical Society, we jointly tell the Bell Witch story out at Jeffers Bend in October. And I presume we will again this year.
Goodness.
The story of Kate the Bell Witch, again like the Little Green Men of Kelly, and somewhat like Edgar Cayce, is unexplainable. We think we know what happened. We saw evidence of what happened, but what really caused it, we don't know. We do know that back in 1817, a family who lived at Adams, Tennessee, 33 miles from here, were visited by a spirit. It was first noticed by the gust of wind. Then evidence was revealed with the pulling of hair and a physical slap on the face. And the spirit appeared in the form of a black cat. And it told them that it had come to kill John Bell, the father in the family, and that it had come to torment Betsy, the teenage daughter, out of her love affair with Joshua Gardner. For 3 years, the spirit tormented those two people and entertained the rest of the community until John Bell died and Betsy broke up her love affair with Josh Gardner, the very things that the spirit predicted would happen. By 1820, it was all history. But to this day, the people around Adams are intrigued to share with you the story of the Bell Witch. She apparently inhabited a cave on the bank of Red River there in Robertson County. And we call it the Bell Witch Cave. People go there and hope to experience something unusual. And some say they have. I question it. But anyway, one of the stories about the Bell Witch involved the Hoptown High football coach in 1931. And he was interested in the Bell Witch. Well, that summer, when the boys reported to start practice, he said, "We're going to Adams, Tennessee." He packed them up, took them to the Bell Witch Cave. They stayed there a week, hopeful of seeing something, hearing something that would be unusual. Each day, the coach would call back to Hopkinsville, to the Kentucky New Era, to Joe Doris, a young reporter who had just gone to work in the paper, to report to him that nothing unusual had occurred involving the Hoptown High football boys. But I wager with you, had they heard or seen anything unusual, there would be a rut beside 41 leading from Adams back to Hopkinsville, a rut created by the feet of the football boys as they ran back home. Who knows?
Oh, my goodness. So, have you ever encountered any ghostly spirits in your life?
Never have.
Yeah.
I have sometimes wished I could relate to it better.
Yeah. Do you think stuff like that still occurs to this day?
I think anything is possible.
I think people.
Yes. The Lord who created us in his magnificence and ability can cause anything to happen.
I think a lot of times this stuff that people, running back to that Chicken Little stuff, I feel like if we put a little bit more thought into it, it may, I always think about, like whatever makes your hair stand up. I'm like, that's something else, Goodness gracious. Well, I've had a time with you today, man.
Well, I sure have enjoyed visiting with you.
I have had a time. Goodness gracious. What's something in Hopkinsville that, like, besides Hotel Latham, I know we already touched on that, what's something Hopkinsville used to have that you wish still existed?
Well, that's a real question. Give me some thought. Something that we lost.
Man, I
Wish we
stumped
still
him,
had.
didn't I?
Yeah, I believe you have.
Ooh-wee. Probably the first one to ever do that. Come on.
Yeah. I would say until the Hoppers were brought back, I lamented the loss of the Hoppers baseball team. But they've been back now since 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has fulfilled a lifetime pleasure of mine. I wish we could recall some of the characters, some of the personalities who added so much to the flavor, to the atmosphere of this community. In all walks of life, I've encountered many people who contribute from every angle possible to the enrichment of our lives. That's what I really wish for.
My goodness. Well, I think you've done a great job at preserving those personalities, though.
We try.
Yeah. So, the Alhambra Theater. Tell me about that. What do you know? Because were you a theater kid?
Yes.
You were.
At the Alhambra.
Yeah. What was that like? What kind of programs and stuff were you in?
Principally Westerns.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
You were a cowboy.
Yes. I enjoyed that very much. And romantic movies that came later. I shall never forget the playing of Gone with the Wind. I'll never forget Operation Petticoat or The Long, Long Trailer, Lucille Ball and Desjardins. All of those movies were shown at the Alhambra. The Alhambra was the gathering place for us. Beginning in 1928, when it opened as a silent movie theater. And then it immediately closed for the installation of sound equipment. And in 1929, it opened as a sound movie theater.
We're nearing 100 years, ain't we?
We're right at 100 years.
Goodness.
We are. A lot of famous performers were on the stage at the Alhambra. I think of Roy Rogers, Billy Sunday, the famous TV evangelist, was there. Any number of people were there to entertain us, to make us laugh.
My goodness. I've always thought about doing I want to do a live version of this. One of my favorite guests that I've had on the podcast here recently, Bird Dog. There's a part in the episode I asked Bird Dog, I said, who's the most famous person you ever met? You know who he said? William Turner.
Oh, no. That Bird Dog is a mess.
Man, I'd like to do a live version of this right here. I'd love to have certain personalities like you and him on at the same time at the Alhambra. That'd do a number, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. I would enjoy it.
That'd do a number. I don't know if you'd classify it as comedy. I'd classify it as a train wreck.
Well, yes, a train wreck, exactly
But
right.
it'd be a beautiful train wreck, such as Creative Chaos, the podcast by Ezell Film Company. A visual train wreck is what would happen if it was live, but it would be beautiful.
To me, to be on with someone like that, whom I admire very much, would be very enjoyable.
Man, I think we might need to put something like that together. I'd like that. But you talk about personality.
Oh,
that
he
man,
is.
I had him on. I couldn't tell what he was saying, but you'd never know. You'd never know if it was the truth or not. but I'm trying to get him back on. I think we're gonna do some more stuff. I want to do some other things with him. I saw him a couple days ago, and he's like, "Hey, you want me back on your TV show?" I said, "Dog, if this was TV, we'd be in a lot better predicament."
Well, I want you to know how much I've enjoyed being with you on it.
Well, I appreciate you. I love being able to preserve, your stories in this way as well. Because, man, what a story you have to tell, though.
We have many stories to
tell. Your story, telling those stories is something in itself,
Thank you.
I admire it, and your willingness to come on here is just incredible.
Glad to.
Well,
thanks so much.
Well, it really does tell a number about me, your willingness to come on here, just chomping at the bit. I said, guess this old boy from Butler Road doing something right. But hey, listen, I say this all the time. I say it at the end of every episode. Love yourself, love others, love your neighbor. We love you. Appreciate your surroundings. Appreciate your small community. This man right here, if you are from Hopkinsville, I hope we have, if you're listening from Hopkinsville, I think this episode should have put a little bit more weight into your surroundings and make you appreciate it a little bit more. I know I sure have. But hey, you got anything else you want to say to this camera right here? You can say anything.
I would say be a friend to everyone and make someone laugh and help everybody enjoy a good day.
There you go. And with that, we hope y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time, all right?